the last part of it. All right, so, okay, so first I want to look at the number. So if I'm looking at the number 3 or the coefficient 3 and 6, what number could I divide in both 3 and 6? Well, they're both divisible by 3. So that's a common factor between those two coefficients, those two numbers. Okay. Now, if I'm looking at the variable part of the number, how many m's do they have in common? They both have at least how many m's? At least 1. So 3m is the common factor between the two because they both have at least 1. This has 2 m's, this has 1, but they both have at least 1. Okay. So now, when I write out the factor inside the parentheses, I'm thinking, what is 3m times what is going to give me 3m squared? Well, I already have a 3. I already have 1m, but I need one more m, so it's just m. Okay. And then the same thing, 3m times what will give me negative 6m? Well, first of all, I need to multiply negative. Right. So it'd be 2. So 2 times 3m equals negative 6m. All right. And then that's it. So remember that when you are factoring, this is all you need. This is it. Because the confusion happens when I start to say solve the problem. Now we make it equal to 0. Now you're solving for x and saying x is a liar. Stop right there if all it's asking you to do is factor. That's it. Okay, you don't need to go any further. Okay, so again, right here, the 3m is the common factor. Actually, I'm just going to write it's the GCF. It's the greatest common factor. And make sure you're looking for, make sure you're looking for the greatest common factor. What's the biggest number that those two will divide into? Not just any number, because if I'm looking at, let's say, 4 and 8, 4x cubed and 8x, well, they're both divisible by 2, but 2 is not the greatest common factor. The greatest common factor would be what? 4. So make sure you're always looking for the greatest common factor between the two. And usually, honestly, if you look at the smallest number in the expression, that's often the common factor. So 4 is the smallest number, that is the common factor. 3 is the smallest number, that is the common factor. And oftentimes that is what it is with these problems. Okay. All right. So now let's look at another example. Hey, good morning. That would be your C right there. Okay, so these are all monomials. So all of these are going to be the same. You're just going to factor out one number with all of those. Okay, the next one, okay, is a trinomial. In other words, 3 numbers, right? And you're factoring out a quadratic. So remember, this is a quadratic because the first number, it has a square. So we have u squared plus 18u plus 17. Now, as you guys get good at these, I mean, you can continue to use the box, but remember that if the number in the front is just 1, if all that you have right here is a 1, you can do a shortcut. Okay, and all you need is the diamond or the x. So remember with the diamond, I'm gonna put this over here on the side, the number on the top is your first term, A, times what? You multiply the first one times what? Times the last, C, okay? So A times C, and then what goes on the bottom? Your B term. Okay, so this is A, this is B, this is C. A, B, C when you have 3 numbers, okay? Alejandro, you got notes? Paper, notebook? I got paper right over there. Grab some paper right over there, okay? So you can follow along. Okay, so the top, 1u squared times 17, well, that's 17u squared. And the bottom, the 18u goes on the bottom. Now, again, I have to figure out what two numbers are going to multiply this to the number on the top, but then add up to the one on the bottom. Well, the only numbers I can multiply to get to 17 are what? Yeah, 1 and 17. But remember, it's u squared, right? So it'd be not just 1, but 1u and 17u. Now, the shortcut with this, if you just have one in the front, those are my numbers that go inside the parentheses. Okay. If this is bigger than 1, then I'm gonna have to do the box. But if it's just 1, I literally can just go straight to writing u. These are both positive, so I'll put +1 and +17. So that goes there, and that goes there. Okay. So the shortcut, only if, let's put if, only if the first or leading coefficient is 1. So I can do the shortcut as long as that first number is 1. So once you kind of get used to that, I mean, it starts to get a whole lot easier. So if I do something like this, I don't know, let's go 18. No, not 18. Let's go 20. All right. So now here, when I go straight here, I know that if that's 1, well, this is going to be x and x. And then all I got to do is say, what two numbers multiply to 20 add up to 12? 10 and 2. So 10, 2, plus 2, plus 10. Done. Okay. So again, you can start going straight from here to here as long as that first number is 1. But if it's not 1, that's when I'm going to need to do the full steps and do the box and all that. Okay. All right. So let me actually do one more just like that. So let's say x squared plus 7. Actually, let's do minus this time. Let's do a negative. So minus, let's say 7x, and we'll go plus 12. And we want to factor this. All right, so now I'll use the x. I'll start off with the x, just because I know that's really helpful for some of you guys. So first, a times c goes on the top. So 12x squared. Then the b goes on the bottom. And then what two numbers multiply to 12 but add up to -7? Well, I know since I have a 1 here, this will be x and x, but what are those two numbers? So both of these need to be negative. So -3x and -4x. So that means here I'll just put -3, -4, and then we're done. Actually circle these because remember, that's all you need. Once you factor, you're done. That's all. That's it. Oh yeah, go ahead. Or you can take a picture of that. Oh, I see what you're saying. Here, hold on just a second. Okay, so here I did GCF first. So now on this last one, if you notice, they all have an R, and each of these numbers can be divided by what? 2, right? So here, let's set that up. So I got this. I'm going to put these numbers inside. And I know that they all can be divided by 2. That's the greatest common factor because the smallest number is 2. And then how many R's do they have in common? They all have at least 1 R. Okay. And really the one that has the least amount of variables or letters, that's the one you're going to go off of, right? Or the smallest number for the coefficient. So now 2r times what gives me 2r cubed? Well, that's going to be r squared. And then 2r times what gives me 14r squared? Well, that's 7r. And then here, 2r times what gives me 20r? 10. All right, so now I'm going to rewrite this down here. And again, you can use this box to do like GCF, but you don't have to if you're able to do it without. Some people like to use the box. It's helpful, just kind of keeps you structured. So now I'm going to write plus 7r plus 10. But I'm not done yet. All I did was GCF, but there's still one more step I got to do. I can factor this even more. And if I cover up that 2r, if you guys look at it, it's just like one of these problems right up here, at least this part of it. So the next step would to factor just this part of it, just like I did up here. So now here, so first I'm going to point out that we did GCF. Now we're about to do the diamond. Okay, and remember I have one, the first number in front of that r squared is a 1, so I can go straight to here with the shortcut. So here again, it's r squared times 10, that goes on top. And then 7r goes on the bottom. Two numbers that multiply to 10 but add up to 7, that'd be 5r and 2r. So that's what ends up being my factor. So now I have r plus first 5, and then r plus 2. And then that is that expression completely factored. So I had to do 2 steps instead of just 1 in that case. 2 steps. Okay, so I'm gonna pause this, let you guys get caught up on it. Let's resume recording. Oh, and I did forget to put a little column here. I was kind of put it off to the side just so I make sure I have room to throw in some notes on the side there. Okay, so let's start off with the x. Now remember, now that first number is bigger than 1, so I can't do the shortcut. But first, let's set up the diamond, just like before. And now remember, we have a, b, and c. So on the top will be a times c. So 5x squared times 3, 15x squared. Then on the bottom, the b goes down here, so 16x. What 2 numbers are going to multiply to 15, but then add up to 16? 15 and 1. Okay, but it's 15 and 1 x, because remember that's an x squared and that's x. But now the next step is, hey, good morning, is the box. And we always do, when it's a trinomial or 3 numbers, we do a 2 by 2 box. So remember the first box, you put your first number or first term. Actually, I'm going to put that over here on the side, like a little example here. So here, first term goes here. And then here, the last term. Okay, and now those 2 numbers that we just found, the 15x and the 1x, those go here. And it does not matter where you put them. I could put 15 up here, down there, doesn't matter. Okay, now, again, just like before, we need to find the numbers that go on the outside. Now, this is important because, yes, we know that 5 times 1 is 5, but where does the 5 go? Does it go on the above or does it go to the side? How do you know? Right, because the bottom is 15. So we know that 5x goes up here. That means that x goes here, because x times 5x is 5x squared. And we know that if you look straight up from the bottom, 5x squared and 15x, they have the common factor of 5x. So if I go straight up this way, they have 5x. Whereas if I go this way across, 5 and 1, the common factor is just 1. So that's how you know where to put which number, okay? So now x times 1 and then 5x times 3. And there's your factors. So now I take those, if you guys remember, I write those out. So now 5x plus 1 times x plus 3. Now again, if the problem asked me to just factor, I'd be done. That's all I got to do. But this actually asked me to solve. So what I'm going to add on here is now I'm going to make this equal to 0, the original problem, which means that my new factors are also equal to 0. And now, if you guys remember, the easy one's this one, x plus 3. What is the solution for x plus 3? You guys remember? It's one of two things. Is it positive 3 or negative 3?
Oh, negative.
Negative, because remember, you switch the sign. So remember that when you solve, x is a liar. Okay, so here, what you can do is you take these to the side, and you can solve for both of them by making them both equal to 0. So first I'll solve 5x plus 1 equals 0, then x plus 3 equals 0. Now this one, again, is the easy one to solve. It's this one which is usually people have trouble with. So here I subtract 3. I get x equals negative 3. This one, I subtract 1, but then I have to divide by 5, so I end up with a fraction as my answer. And again, the shortcut for that answer is that I look at the second number that goes on top, so the 1, and then the first number goes on the bottom, and I just got to make sure that I switch the sign. So if it was positive, you make it negative. Okay? All right, you guys at home,